Coming up on Focal Point, former President Barack Obama encourages people to get out and vote.
They can't hear you boo, but they can hear you vote.
Could Gen Z voters have a huge impact on this year's election?
And Michigan State football seems to be in a spiral.
First and foremost, Michigan State football is about integrity, discipline, unselfishness, toughness, and accountability.
We have all this and more coming up on Focal Point. Welcome to Focal Point. I'm Isabella Martin.
And I'm Anna Mizarowski. Today is November 4th. We are just 4 days away from the midterm election. It seems a lot is at stake in the upcoming election. So much so that the former President Barack Obama has been crisscrossing the country from Georgia to Wisconsin and ended up here in Detroit to campaign for Governor Gretchen Whitmer and make sure Michiganders vote blue.
And how does Generation Z figure in all of this? Will they show up at the polls for a midterm? We'll have those stories and more right here on Focal Point.
But first, the MSU-Michigan football game ended with a tunnel fight and indefinite suspensions for 8 MSU players. Focal Point's Hunter Gadwell is live outside the practice facility. Hunter, catch us up to speed.
Hi guys, it's been a stressful week for MSU football and it doesn't look like that stress is going away anytime soon.
If you're a Michigan State football fan, the game on Saturday was pretty ugly. But the Halloween game turned even scarier after the game ended.
Here in the Spartan Stadium tunnel, this is what the players see as they walk on the field. Relentless. It's supposed to give them that mindset on the field, not off of it, in a tunnel, like this one.
A video from ESPN shows Michigan State players punching and shoving a Michigan player after the game. Both teams use the same tunnel to get to the locker rooms. MSU coach Mel Tucker says the whole incident is unacceptable.
We're deeply sorry to both universities, the conference, our fans, alumni, supporters, and of course, all of our student athletes, past and present.
Tucker and the MSU athletic department have suspended 8 players. During the suspension, the players are allowed to attend classes, but not football-related activities. Michigan coach Jim Harbaugh says it was sickening to watch.
No, I don't buy any excuse that's going to be laid off on the rivalry or the tunnel or any other thing that somebody could possibly blame. These are the actions of these individuals, and they need to be accountable for them.
Harbaugh says there should be a full, timely, and thorough investigation. He says he can't imagine that there won't be criminal charges filed.
Criminal investigation is ongoing. The team has 4 games left in their season and takes on Illinois tomorrow. Live from the football building, I'm Hunter Gadwell. Anna, Isabella, back to you.
Thanks, Hunter. Hopefully the Spartans can pull through for their game on Saturday. Now, President Barack Obama made his way to Michigan this past weekend, and thousands of people showed up for it.
Focal Point's Alex Hill traveled to the Motor City with more on how Democrats hope his message will inspire Michiganders to get out and vote.
When I see big, you say grits! Big! Grits!
Some came for the first time.
I'm excited to feel the energy.
And some have felt this energy before.
We're like a good city block or so away from the entrance.
With the back of the line still continuing to form just 30 minutes before the doors open, the front of the line, you can see the people who arrived here first at 5 a.m. this morning.
Hi, folks. About 3,000 Michiganders lined up. Some walked with signs.
Because I believe that freedom is on the ballot, especially for women in Michigan.
All to see this.
Hello, Detroit!
Former President Barack Obama paid a visit to Detroit to stump for Governor Gretchen Whitmer and the Democrats' Get Out the Vote campaign.
American democracy is also on the ballot.
He talked about voting rights, inflation, education, and abortion.
If that's not worth 15 minutes of your time, I don't know what is.
And encouraged voters to fight for what they care about.
Booing doesn't help. They can't hear you boo, but they can hear you vote.
the Supreme Court was wrong for what they did when they brought that up. That's the main thing.
That main thing, the fight for reproductive rights, is influencing voter turnout according to Obama and many Michigan Democrats.
We have so many women in authoritative roles and leadership that we cannot undermine those rights. We have the right to do what we wish with our bodies, and that needs to be maintained.
It was all exciting for the crowd.
It was fantastic.
Especially for the first person in line.
Especially when Obama came out.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Yeah.
He's the best.
It's in the hands of voters to determine what happens next.
Our democracy is on the line. This could be our last free and fair election. I'm not even so sure about this election.
If President Obama can come to Detroit on a Saturday morning, I sure as heck can.
In Detroit, Alex Hill, Focal Point News.
Thanks, Alex. Wow, 2 million is a lot of Michiganders. The former president has been on a national tour supporting Democratic candidates. After Michigan, he made a stop in Arizona to help in that governor's race.
With Election Day just a few days away, some experts say a certain kind of voter could have a huge impact on this election. Focal Point's Elena Cousineau is live in the newsroom to tell us more.
Yes, that's right, Anna. A specific group could tip election results to favor one political party, and some MSU students fall into that category.
We have the form right here.
For some, registering to vote is a rite of passage.
It's kind of crazy that I'm old enough to be able to vote and stuff now, which is pretty cool.
Ian Tolanen is a freshman at MSU, and he says he never really thought about voting before.
I remember being 15, 16, I wasn't thinking about voting at that time, but I'm 18, I'm a lot of my mindset's changed.
For his friend Liam McDonald, voting has been on his mind for a while.
My dad's an immigrant from the United Kingdom, and he's not able to participate in elections and things like that.
Whether voting is on students' minds or not, MSU professor Marty Jordan says Generation Z's vote could change the outcome of this year's election.
If we got half of Gen Z voters to turn out to cast a ballot, that would be a sizable uptick for an off-year election compared to past off-year elections.
However, to understand the full effect Gen Z voters could have on this year's election, we have to go back to 2020.
We're going to have a great red wave.
Our voices and our votes must free ourselves from the forces of darkness.
Typically, there's an old maxim in American politics, which is that 70% of 70-year-olds vote, 20% of 20-year-olds vote. Well, 2020 turned that on its head because about more than half of young voters between the ages of 18 and 29 turned out to vote.
Well, but this year's turnout numbers match the same as 2020's. Well, the big items on the ballot and on students' minds like abortion and the governor's race, Professor Jordan says that there's a chance, but it's not certain.
But I would be surprised if it reached the 2020 level. I'm just, trying to be realistic here. It would be great if we met those numbers or exceeded those numbers among Gen Z.
Jordan also added, based on partisan registrations, more Gen Z voters favor the Democratic Party. So if more Gen Z voters turn out to the polls, it could tip the scale to favor the Democratic candidates.
If the same proportion of Gen Z voters that show up tend to be Democrats, then you're going to see a pretty big margin probably for Whitmer as well as other Democratic candidates down the ticket.
That is why city clerks like Jennifer Schuster are working hard to get students registered to vote.
Voting is important, so your voice is heard. Everyone who is qualified should exercise their right to vote.
Although we won't know for sure how many Gen Z voters will show up to the polls until after the election, McDonald and Tolanen both say they will be there.
Excited to hopefully be a part of the change that I want to see and more young people coming to vote.
Michigan is already breaking records compared to the 2018 midterm election. The Michigan Secretary of State says that almost 2 million Michiganders have already requested absentee ballots just 1 week before Election Day. Live in the newsroom, Elena Cousineau, Focal Point News.
Voting, of course, is a privilege. There are rules in place to ensure everyone can cast their ballot safely and are assured that they'll end up in the right place. The East Lansing City Clerk and her staff have made sure that you can cast your ballot safely, but they ask that you remember a few rules before you come by. And if you are curious exactly how the clerk's office collects ballots, they've set up observation areas where you can do just that.
But if you're at the clerk's office or your polling location on election day, you should not be taking ballot selfies in the voting area because you could get people or expose ballots in the background. So that definitely is not allowed. But if you do want to take a picture of your voted ballot, you are allowed to do that.
Make sure you remember your ID when you hit the polls this Tuesday.
We've all seen it. Our feeds are filled with information or disinformation about candidates and issues. What is true? What are the facts? It's sometimes hard to navigate it all. We talked to a Michigan State professor who says all of the information that bombards us can put in two categories, misinformation and disinformation. Misinformation is false, but not meant to be harmful. Disinformation is spread with the intent to spread harm.
And disinformation biases the trust to the wrong person. Now the idea of voting as a democratic instrument that really helps communities to self-govern themselves in the best way collapses over time.
So how can misinformation be combated? Professor Bauer stresses to check multiple sources and use credible fact-checking sites like PolitiFact and more. Coming up after the break, we'll tell you everything you need to know this upcoming election day, from the final debate between Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Tudor Dixon to absentee ballots. Stay with us.
It's a beautiful day on MSU's campus. Right now, you're looking at our campus cam. Next, we'll hear from Caitlin Holtfloor on what our weather forecast will look like next week.
It's no surprise that with every growing election season, our phones become one of our primary sources to getting information. However, there are a few things to consider before trusting what you see online or receive over text. Unfortunately, people are using the election season as a prime time to scam voters. Some scammers may be posing as pollsters. They may try to steal your information, so beware of hyperlinks, don't answer unknown numbers, prize offers are a red flag, and if you do bump into this issue, report it to the Better Business Bureau. Scammers may also pose as political campaigners asking you to donate money to their cause, otherwise known as spoofing.
And if you receive a call from someone saying you're not registered to vote, registration cannot be done via phone or text. If you are concerned your registration hasn't gone through, check with your local clerk's office.
If you're registering to vote, you may either go online, in person,
I hope you register to vote.
or mail in.
Always be cautious. Don't give out your credit card information, your social security number, or any other personal information. And remember to vote safely this November.
Welcome back to Focal Point. It's been a surprisingly warm start to November with temperatures heating up instead of cooling down. Caitlin Holtfloor is here now with weather. Caitlin, what can we expect this week?
Hey guys, not too bad for November 4th. We started at 55 degrees. Now that's nearly our normal high for this time of year. The rest of the U.S. is seeing a big swing in temperatures. Starting with the West Coast, it never rains in Southern California, right? And the weather's just about perfect if you like temps in the 60s. LA is sitting at a comfortable 68 and Phoenix at 65. Moving towards the south, a little toastier over here in Miami, 83 there today and 74 in Atlanta. Over on the East Coast, also seeing those upper 60s. Most of us here in Michigan will be getting jealous of you over the next few weeks and months. In fact, let's look closer to home. In the Great Lakes region, not too bad for the first week of November, 73 in Indy, 70 in Detroit, in Chicago, and 65 in Green Bay, so slightly colder up there. Currently in East Lansing, we're sitting at a comfortable 71 degrees with a small chance of rain. Detroit's looking similar. Grand Rapids and Mount Pleasant both at 68 degrees with a slightly higher chance of rain, so make sure to bring an umbrella just in case. Lots of cloud coverage right now, but that won't last much longer as we look at our 7-day outlook. We'll be staying in the mid-70s today and tomorrow, and a slight drop-off on Sunday followed by rainstorms. The rest of the week, however, we'll have plenty of sunshine as we drop to the 50s from Monday through Thursday. A little chilly at night as the temperatures reach near freezing, so make sure to bring a jacket if you have plans to head out. That's all we have in weather today. Back to you, Isabella.
Caitlin, I'm just looking forward to not bringing out my winter jacket just yet. Now, it was the last time Michigan's governor and her challenger met face-to-face. Last week, the two squared off at Oakland University, and Focal Point's Marvin Pride was there.
they met on a stage once before.
Do you really think books are more dangerous than guns? Like, do you really think that books pose a greater danger to our kids than gun violence does?
And for their second and closing act, these actors in this real-life drama did not disappoint.
The governor has just been dishonest with you.
Like their first debate, Governor Gretchen Whitmer and Tudor Dixon stayed true to their own scripts, challenging each other on education, roads, and women's rights.
This isn't about me. This is about all the women and girls in our state. This is about the ability to have bodily autonomy, be treated as a full American citizen.
People will decide what they want to do on abortion rights in the state of Michigan. Abortion rights will be decided by Proposal 3, or it will be decided by a judge.
Whitmer and Dixon went down another familiar road in this hour-long debate.
We will work to make sure that there actually is a plan for the roads.
We need to continue this. It doesn't end. Unfortunately, we have to continue to rebuild infrastructure, but we're making headway, and we got to put our foot on the gas.
The two candidates stood only a few feet apart on the Oakland University stage, but their views on education could have not been further apart.
This is something that has been a pillar of my campaign, to bring education back in the state of Michigan. Not only do we want to make sure that parents are involved in education, but we want to make sure that our kids are back on track.
The reason kids were out of school during the pandemic was because we were working off of knowledge from 1918, when kids died from the last global pandemic. As a mom, all I was thinking about was saving the lives of our kids.
Whitmer supporters are cautiously optimistic. Polls find her about 7 points up on Dixon, and moments after the second debate, the governor seemed confident.
We've made record investments in education. We've landed record economic development investment in Michigan, good paying jobs. So we do work well together.
Dixon also felt the debate went well.
I feel tonight went strong. We were able to hold the governor accountable, and she didn't really have any response to her own record.
After the curtain came down on the last debate, both candidates felt they grabbed the audience, and they hope their performance will get applause in the form of votes. In Rochester Hills, I'm Marvin Pride, Focal Point News.
Voters make the final decision on Tuesday, which includes Proposal 3, and many colleges' Board of Trustees will also be on the ballot for voters to decide on. Polls close at 8 o'clock.
There are 5 uncontested races on East Lansing's ballot. There's even more throughout Ingham County and mid-Michigan.
Focal Point's Aaron Bowling caught up with one uncontested candidate who believes more people should get involved.
Lisa Babcock is on her way to serve as judge in this court for 6 years. She says judges often run uncontested. However, she's disappointed in the amount of uncontested races in mid-Michigan.
I registered voters in the dorm when I was in my 20s.
A race against herself.
It's been both a campaign and not a campaign.
Being the only candidate on the ballot is becoming more common in mid-Michigan.
I think it's unfortunate that we've reached a point where people are less and less willing to run for office. I think there should always be an option in who you're voting for.
Lisa Babcock is on East Lansing City Council, and she's running for district court judge.
People in the community approached me about serving as judge, and my first reaction was a huge fit of imposter syndrome.
This wasn't always her plan. She started out as a reporter and currently practices law.
Anytime you are age 18, you can serve on anything that interests you. You don't have to wait for a nod.
With so many uncontested races in mid-Michigan, Babcock urges young people to get involved and take chances.
Too often, particularly women, we're told, we feel like we have to have the perfect resume to be able to run for something.
She says politics can be cutthroat.
When I was running for city council, I had some of that. People I had known most of my life were spreading, just a handful of them, but they were spreading some really hurtful rumors.
If you do what you believe in,
absolutely,
it's worth it.
You embrace that, you lean into that. You can't let people who may disagree with you or may be mean-spirited limit your options or limit what you do because you believe in it.
There are 21 uncontested races in Ingham County and 5 on East Lansing's ballot. Most are for school board and township roles, but she says every position matters. Live in East Lansing, I'm Aaron Bowling. Back to you guys in the studio.
That seems like the place to be for this year's election.
With the election fast approaching, many voters may choose to go the absentee route. Absentee ballots can be requested online and mailed in. Requests to have an absentee ballot mailed to a voter must be received by their clerk no later than 5 p.m. the Friday before the election. There are also several secure drop-box stations where absentee ballots can be dropped off. Voters also have the option of voting early with an absentee ballot at your local election clerk's office or at a satellite polling station. To find a drop box for your registered city or township clerk, you can visit michigandropbox.com. Jennifer Schuster, the East Lansing City Clerk, wants voters to know there are many resources for voters online at mi.gov/vote.
There you can look to make sure your voter registration information is updated. You can view where your polling location is located. You can even view your sample ballot for this election.
After receiving an absentee ballot, voters have until 8 p.m. on Election Day to complete the ballot and return it to the clerk's office or an official drop box. I've already mailed in my absentee ballot, but if you haven't, CATA buses are making sure everyone has a ride to the polls this Election Day. CATA has been providing free rides to the township clerk's office and ballot drop boxes since October 25th, and you can get a free ride up until 8 p.m. on election night. This service has been offered since 1988 and has since received positive feedback from the community.
You simply board the bus and you let the driver know that you're there to vote. There's no ID required. There is no voter registration or proof of registration required. We will give you a free ride to the polls.
To find a ballot drop box near you, visit michigan.gov/elections.
What is the best candy to find in your Halloween bag? Unpopular opinion, I know I personally like candy corn, circus peanuts, and Laffy Taffy. But what if you found voting information in there? Some might think that's as bad as getting dental floss. But one event combined a typically scary day with Election Day. Focal Point's Destiny Shelley tells us about Souls at the Polls.
It's the season to be spooked and scared. That's right, election season. And Halloween too. But what happens when you combine the two? An event called Souls to the Polls.
With a little fun for the children here of Lansing with the trunk or treat portion of Souls to the Polls program.
A chance to mix ghostly fun with a little learning. Sponsored by local fraternities and sororities.
Delta Sigma Theta, Sorority Incorporated. Alpha Kappa Alpha, Sorority Incorporated.
Kids are not only receiving treats, but also learning about the importance of voting.
Every car that drives past and rolls down their window gets one of these. Information about voting, information about all the proposals, and also a QR code to register to vote. And all the kids in the bag get candy.
Very important election coming up, and we want to encourage people that their vote has power.
With the upcoming midterm elections,
we have a voting rights proposal that will expand voting rights, and we have a reproductive rights proposal. So really important things on the ballot this November 8th.
Lansing City Clerk Chris Swope hopes this event will make an impact on Lansing residents.
Of in-person same-day registration, as well as they can pick up an absentee ballot and vote it here and return it if they want.
And encourage everyone to use their voice and their right to vote.
When we vote, we win. That's right. See you at the polls.
In East Lansing, Destiny Shelley, Focal Point News.
You'll have 2 more opportunities to register and vote tomorrow and Sunday at the Lansing City Clerk's office. It'll be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. with candy, giveaways, and early registration. Coming up on Focal Point, we take the first look at Tom Izzo and the Spartan basketball team this season.
And how James Madison students are celebrating Day of the Dead. We'll be right back.
Coming to you from our Fox 61 newsroom here in Hartford, Connecticut. Moving from a smaller market to a bigger market was not as intimidating as I was expecting. Of course, I also have a good team here at Fox 61 who also helped with that transition, so it's been good so far. What do I miss most about Michigan State? There's a lot I miss about Michigan State. I miss the people at Michigan State. I miss being on the campus. I miss my professors and my friends. But most of all, I would probably say I miss the memories that I created there at Michigan State with friends and with professors and colleagues. Overall, that really made my experience there at MSU really memorable when I was there. And ultimately, I do miss it, but here I am now in the real world.
Welcome back to Focal Point. I'm Chloe Porfirio, taking you through this week's sports headlines. And as we mentioned at the top of the show, it's been a tough week for the Spartan football team, with 8 suspended players and a loss to the in-state rival Michigan. Many familiar faces made an appearance at the Big House Saturday night. Quarterback Peyton Thorne got the Spartans rolling with a deep throw to Keon Coleman to get the first and only touchdown of the night. Michigan running back Blake Corum had an easy 2-yard touchdown, putting the Wolverines up 10-7 in the second quarter. Jake Moody would convert 5 goals throughout the night to seal a 29-7 victory for the hosts.
We need to do a better job setting the edge and wrapping up tackling. They didn't get the big explosives, which is what they live on. But I was not pleased with the way we set the edge at times.
The 8 suspended players are currently sitting out indefinitely pending investigation by law enforcement, both universities and the Big Ten. The 3 and 5 Spartans travel to Illinois for a 3:30 p.m. kickoff tomorrow. Over to the hardwood. Senior Malik Hall led the Spartans with 15 points to defeat exhibition opponents Grand Valley State 73-56. Despite the win, Tom Izzo was not happy with his players' efforts.
Players play, tough players win. We had more talent than Grand Valley. They played tougher than us. Simple. So good lesson. But, against a very good Tennessee team, we did bring it with some energy and we played tough. So consistency is what every coach looks for. And we got our work cut out. So now it's back to the lab.
Up next for the Spartans is a home game against Northern Arizona Monday night at 7. Let's turn it over to the turf. For the first time in program history, the 6th-ranked women's soccer team will play in the Big Ten tournament final after defeating Nebraska 2-1 in the semis. Head coach Jeff Hosler says his team is ready.
Yeah, we're excited to be in that environment. Playing a neutral field, incredible stadium from everything I've heard. Looking forward to getting down there and doing our walkthrough and checking out the facility today, become acclimated to it so we're ready for kickoff. And obviously an incredible opportunity. Now it's a matter of 2 matches to win another trophy and putting our best foot forward.
The Spartans look to win their 2nd trophy of the season in the final against Penn State. Kickoff is at 2 p.m. Sunday and will be broadcasted on Big Ten Network from Columbus. Now onto the ice. The men's hockey team traveled to Notre Dame last weekend to play in a 2-game series. The Spartans lost the first, and the second game resulted in a tie.
I think for us, obviously we want to win every game, but we want to continue to build. And I thought Friday there was in some ways we took a step back, but there was other things we did well, and that's really our focus. Whether we're at home or away, we want to make sure we get better every game.
Spartans return to home ice tonight to play Wisconsin. Puck drop is scheduled for 7 p.m. That's what's happening in sports this week. Anna, Isabella, back to you.
A tradition that has been celebrated for thousands of years in Latin culture makes its way to MSU.
Amaya Kuznicki tells us more about Dia de los Muertos on this week's Focal Point Friday finale.
Family, art, and music. Dia de los Muertos, a holiday that reunites the living with the dead. Many may not know the meaning behind the day, but students from MSU's James Madison College plan to change that.
We want an environment where students are represented, where they're learning more in the process,
represents what we're trying to do as a residential college as well.
With activities and great food.
The excitement's in the air, the students are here, they're getting to take part in it, and this is what we're looking forward to, and this is what represents what we're trying to establish.
One thing that added extra flair to this Dia de los Muertos celebration was traditional dancing that was choreographed by a woman that's been in the business for over 40 years.
42 years.
Maria Luz Salas Arambula not only choreographs the show, but also dabbles in design.
The yellow one I made specially for the girl, the young dancer. I made that one specially for her.
Over 20 yards of fabric went into one dress, and Arambula did it all.
I did it all by myself.
The dancers range from age 8 to young adults and continue to amaze their teachers.
But then when they perform, they put 100% plus, and that makes me so proud because our culture is so beautiful and they're representing our culture.
It's the history of that culture that makes this event one of a kind. In East Lansing, I'm Amaya Kuznicki, Focal Point News. To get an up-close and personal look at what goes into this holiday special, the MSU Museum will host a Dia de los Muertos exhibit until November 11th. Isabella, I don't know about you, but I'm definitely going to check this out.
It sounds like a great opportunity for students and community members to learn more about this holiday. That's all for this week's edition of Focal Point. Be sure to tune in this Tuesday evening for our election night special.
We leave you with the spooky sounds of Honlair playing the Beaumont Tower. Have a great day.